Okay, so that's it. We're just going to follow on from our last podcast where we left you having just watched the fireworks at Red Bay. So we got a couple of hours sleep and then lifted our anchors at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Ready to make the crossing across from Ireland to Scotland. So we got up, we started rowing.
Yeah, it was beautiful conditions for it.
Yeah, it was flat calm.
Light airs, flat sea. We got a wee bit of a lift with the tide initially. We'd set off a couple of hours before the tide was due to turn, and normally that would mean you would be fighting it in the wrong direction, but we managed to pick up a bit of a back eddy going up the coast.
Yeah, that back eddy that gave us so much trouble the day before getting into Red Bay actually gave us a monumental boost to get out of Red Bay, so put us a good few miles ahead of schedule.
Which is probably just as well, really.
Probably, yeah. So we have the same issues with the tides running across this part of, it's called the North Channel. So the tides again run from north to south, and we're wanting to travel to the northwest. So the tide was actually pulling us and pulling us and pulling us quite quickly up to the
northwest.
To the northwest. Sorry, we wanted to go northeast. Tired today. So we had a bit of a battle, and the last few miles of it seemed like land was never getting closer, never getting closer, never getting closer.
I think part of that though is the Mull of Kintyre is such a big lump of land, and you know, big things like that don't tend to move quickly. If it was just something little, you would see it moving along the horizon, and you know, because we're not moving very quickly, that just makes things go that little bit slower anyway.
But the other thing we had to contend with was we knew later in the day, much later in the day, there was more wind coming, so we were really keen to make it to land and make it to shelter. And also we didn't want to get caught in the tide that was going to start pushing us back to the south and west, because that would have just been a disaster. So anyway, the positive points of coming across were we made it, and at one point in time we were in the dusky morning, we were joined by a whale for a few minutes, which was...
But it came back a few times, well, I'm assuming it was the same one, came back a few times.
The first time it popped up, it was a bit of a, what's that moment?
Yeah, because it was big, it was bigger than Bodacea.
And quite noisy when it first surfaced. So, but that was really lovely to see, quite special. So when we got across here, we dropped anchor in not the best of positions, but beggars can't be choosers, and we just had to be safe. We had to stop ourselves drifting anywhere and things, and we were pretty tired because we'd been rowing for the best part of 9 hours solidly without any real kind of breaks, which is, at this stage in the game, we are starting to feel quite tired and fatigued, and our bodies are sore. And it's fair to say that our hands are excruciating at times with the pain in the small joints. So we did come back to a plethora of messages saying welcome back to Scotland and things, which was really nice, but at the time we weren't really feeling like celebrating because we were just exhausted. So we dropped the anchor for a few hours, and then...
Yeah, it was quite a short break as well, because we'd ended up rowing into the next tide to try and fight our way to land. It meant that the next tide was actually quite a short break, so it was something like 4 hours that we actually anchored for in the end, because we lifted it before the tide turned again to fight the last little bit in the slack water period where there's not a lot of tide flowing. So we got going quite sharp, and it was a slow slog for the first few miles as we passed Mhairi Bay. It's quite exposed to the, or we were more exposed to the wind is probably the right way of saying it, the less shelter from the hills, because Mhairi is a bit lower, and it just seemed to go on and on and on forever. I think we were doing a knot or just under a knot for a good chunk of it, and eventually once the tide picked up, our speed picked up as well, and we ended up romping on about 3.5, 4 knots for a good 2 to 3 hours, which was a welcome boost, because when you're doing slow speeds like that and you know that you've got quite a tight window before the weather's due to turn and the tide's then due to turn as well, it's almost like you're just wallowing in a pit of despair.
Well, we were wallowing in a pit of despair.
Yeah, you just feel like you know, when you're in a boat like this, you don't have an engine you can turn on to get you to a place of safety. We are it, so you have to plan ahead, and there was nowhere to run there, you know, so that just kind of heightens your feeling of despair, I think.
And if we're being totally honest, there was times yesterday where we thought the row was going to end.
Yeah.
But we said we'd give ourselves another hour and see where we were in an hour's time. Unfortunately, when we checked our position, we had moved just over 2.5 miles in the right direction. So
yeah,
we decided to keep fighting,
and we were making good speed as well.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
You know, we decided to alter course slightly, and we were aiming for inside of Gigha, hopefully going to anchor somewhere along the mainland coast, and because the direction of the wind had just changed ever so slightly, it meant we could just bear away from the wind and almost run before it a little bit, and that gave us a bit more speed. So we made the decision just to do that, aim for Gigha, and we'll find somewhere in Gigha to anchor, whether we've got to cling on to the outside of Gigha and then move in the morning when the wind changes, or hopefully manage to get into shelter, which we actually managed to do. So it was a bit of a slog, and that pit of despair, that horrible feeling, you've got to pick yourself up from it, you know, because there's no way out of where we're at. We are that way out, and we've just got to keep going. And
yeah.
If I'm honest, if I was there by myself, I don't know what I would be feeling. But the fact we were there together, we kind of pick each other up. I think we did a pretty good job of that.
I think we did yesterday, because it would have been so easy just to phone a friend.
Yeah.
Well, not easy, because if it was easy we would have phoned. But
I'm so glad that we didn't.
So am I, because
we knew at that point we've got under 400 miles to go. You know, in fact, we're under 300. Under 300 miles to go, and to end it so close to the finish. And I know we're not close to the finish. I know there's a lot to still do, but in the big scheme of things, we are close to the finish, and we've put everything into this. We're just so committed to seeing it through, and you know, that is our commitment. We are going to see this through. It's got to be done safely, so that's the one caveat in amongst that. You know, if it's not right, we're not doing it. But we made it to Gigha, and Gigha is the saviour of this trip, because whilst we were both in that pit of despair, couldn't really see a way out of it, and making it to Gigha has been that way out of it. So here we are, and we will come back to Gigha and celebrate.
So yeah, less than 300 miles to go. What does it mean to us? It would mean the world to get there, and I think sometimes we've not been thinking about getting home that much on this trip, because it's been such a long way away, and we always think of home, but you don't start. It would never have been to stop before this point. Probably wouldn't have been quite so hard, because we wouldn't have been so close to the finish line and making it. I think we're keen to get home.
I think I mean, for me, I find that, and it's the same when I've been away working and things, you get in the zone, so you sort of can't compartmentalise your mind, so it's not that you don't think about home, you do, and I keep thousands of photos on my phone, and I'll scroll through them, you know, missing the dogs and other things, and you know, just it's family and friends, and you can scroll through your phone and just look at memories there, and it, you know, that's sometimes nice to do. But you are in the zone. You know, we're on this little boat. We've been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away from home. We're a lot less now, but you're still, you know, that distance is, it's doesn't matter if it's 100 miles or 1,000 miles away from home. It's still the same. You're still away from home, so you have to be in the zone and just get on with the job in hand. And that job for us is completing this row. So that's the way I kind of tackle it. It's not that you're not thinking about home and wanting to be there, it's just that you can't be, and you have to be realistic.
Yeah, and I think when you're enjoying yourself, it's easy not to think of home. It's when this tough, the times are getting harder, that you just want to get there. And I think it's probably safe to say that we've both reached that stage that we now want to be at home.
Aye, definitely. And you know, the closer to home we are, actually, the more we want to be at home, the harder the road is getting. We're physically just fatigued. Our bodies are aching in places that I didn't even know could ache, and that's taking its toll. You know, the mental side of that as well. It's just, we're fatigued all over, mentally and physically.
It's 300 miles, but it's going to be a long 300 miles. But to keep reminding ourselves that we could be done and dusted in as little as 10 days. But the reality is it's probably going to be longer because there's weather coming. We knew that weather would hold us up again. But yeah, we just need to pick our way through the islands now, and each mile is that mile closer to home. And
yeah, ironically,
the same thing is, once we get home, I'll be disappointed. As much as I want to get home now, I'll also be really disappointed. It's a double-edged sword. I'll also be disappointed that the adventure's over.
Yeah, well, we just need to plan another adventure. But not rowing.
And life will probably go back to normal fairly quickly, or what was normal. But we have learnt valuable lessons about ourselves and each other. I think the main one is that our strength and determination and support in each other is pretty rock solid, and we're not really forever giving up.
Yeah, and I think that's right in the picking each other up as well. You know, I think we've done a good job in the tough times there, and you know, we're still here slogging away. And we're nearly there.
And we've not had an argument yet.
Nah.
Because it's 300 miles.
It's because you know I'm always right.
You're right.
But yeah, this is the bit that, ironically, I was looking forward to the most, and just feeling a bit fatigued and everything. It's probably taking a wee bit of a sweetener off it, but I'm pretty sure once we get further in amongst the islands, because the west coast of Scotland is just, it's amazing. And the beauty of the islands as well is that you can get shelter in lots of different places. So like last night, it was pretty fresh. There was a bit of a storm last night, lightning storm, torrential rain, and pretty fresh winds. I think it was over 30 knots of wind last night. We were hugged in close behind a little island between Gigha and the mainland, yeah, just slept through most of it. So
well, you did.
I was quite tired. I must have rowed harder than you.
Alright. Anyway, right.
Yeah, so we better go and have a
coffee.
I'm gonna have lunch. I'm hungry, and then
I just want caffeine.
Safety snooze, and then hopefully go and do some rowing.
Yeah. Jura, here we come.
Yeah.
Not stopping for whiskey though.
Okay, we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.